What's up, everyone? It's Johnny Glock coming at you here for another informational video. I showed one on slide tightening, but if you don't do step 2 to that slide tightening, then you're kind of doing half a job. So along with that, you want to polish and modify, not completely modify, but just I'll have to show you. I don't even know what the right word is, to just clean up maybe the rail tabs. So I did half the rail tabs on this. I still haven't finished it. There's some more processes I have to do, but I just want to show you something here. So the bottom, all right, let's get that in there. The bottom rail tab has been finished. The top one hasn't. I'm going to try to zoom in here so you can see this better. Maybe if I get out of the way. Aha, there you go. So you can see the bottom rail tab. The corners have been knocked down a little bit. The high ends have been taken down. There's sharp edges on these right here, as you can see. And then what I do is I take that and sort of round it just a little bit, but not a ton. You have to remember, you do not want to remove too much from these because it's going to defeat the purpose. These, let me get to the front here too. So okay, rather to the back, so I'll move my hand. So then there you can see the top one's finished, but the bottom one isn't. It's pretty evident. You can see the edges, you can see the rounds on the top one. And I'm going to flip it here on the bottom one. You can see, it's very right there. I hope everyone knows what I'm doing. It's hard to hold this steady and get it in the camera at the same time. So that's what we're looking at. And like I said, right there, you can see that a little bit of edge, the little rounds are taken off right there. And here, I got some pretty serious edges that we want to knock down. But now the thing is, you don't want to, let me back this back out. Nice shot of my unshaved face. You don't want to take too much material off this because you can really screw it up. You'll have like a, sway. But basically, you just want to clean them up. Kind of take a little bit of round off the, kind of knock those corners down just a bit, and just polish them up. And that way, with your slide work that you do, it'll come up pretty nice. It'll come out smooth, just like as if the slide has been racked. Like a lot of guys sit there and watch TV and just rack their slide, rack. It's gonna same thing as it's gonna give you the same smoothness as that. Especially if you're gonna tighten up the rails and do any lapping in the rails there. It really makes a huge difference. So I show you how I do this. I have a little setup here that I'm gonna put together. Okay, so actually I gotta get this. Bear with me here as usual. Gotta break down my mini tripod. There we go. Get a better angle on that. And so I use this, and I'll show you a picture of this. This is a kind of a vise I created. So I'm using 2 vices, and I'm using a Dremel vise. I'll back it out like that. And yeah, it's just, you gotta hold this thing steady somehow. It's really important that you have a firm grip on this. And so basically, I'm going to vise this up in a way that makes sense for me that I've been doing it. Because I need my elbows at a certain angle. So I'll widen this out. So, okay, I can't widen it out anymore, but I'll bring it back like this. And then I'll take it, the actual gun like that a little bit. And so hopefully you can, let me bring it wide. Okay, so you can see in there. I'm going to bring a little bit of light into the situation too. Perfect. So this is what we're going after right here. And this is through hardened steel. And even though it's through hardened, you don't want to, blast through, take a ton of material off, because you're going to really mess it up if you do that. You're going to defeat the purpose. So the first thing I'm using here, and this is not absolutely what I do every time, but this is just for you guys, so you can get started on some on some gunsmithing stuff here, and not worry about really screwing too much up. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to take one of these wheels, these rotary wheels, and you're going to just sort of knock the edges off right here by going like that. But what you're doing is you're applying pressure on the corner, you're lifting, applying pressure on this corner. You don't want to go zzz, you know, you don't want to really, let me see if I can get a, maybe I'll get lucky and it'll zoom right in there. Whoa! Talking HD, baby. So you really don't want to put a lot of pressure here. You know, right there, yes, right here, yes. Now let's see if I can't straighten this out even a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna move this over now. What the heck? I swear to God, this is like, did you guys ever back up a trailer? If you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like everything's opposite. And, you know, sometimes you get it and sometimes you're like, what the? Okay, so here's where we're going with this right here. Now, I'll show you guys a trick with something after I'm done with this, but I'm just going to literally fire this thing up, and I'm steadying my hands, and I'm basically knocking off here, knocking off there. And you can hear where the pressure is being applied because the buzz changes. So I'm going to be right there, sit right there for a minute, sit right there for a minute, and you can already see the edges. It's already looking better. Just busted it up a little bit. I want to take some of the, have some tooling marks on the outside of this I wanted to remove, just gently floating on it. Alright, perfect. You can already see the difference on this right here. There's just, you know, it gave it like a very nice rounded, and even in the back you can see it. You can see how nice and polished it is right here. You know, you can do the same thing over here. You know, on this side, of course, you're going to have to, you know, turn it this way. But there's other things I use for this edge, you know, that are somewhere in the world of this. And it, you know, it all depends on the gun too. So here's the next thing that you're going to do, because this is one that's not going to actually remove metal. And a really cool trick that I'll show you right here is if you put a diamond, if you put like a diamond or round diamond thing right here, you can create a channel, which is actually going to channel right along with that. Like, see right there. Now I don't have it created too much. I'm going to try to keep this steady enough so you can see what I'm doing here. This is tricky. So if I turn this up and I just touch in there and take some material off of this wheel, back it up again, you can see it throwing material. Now I've created a little channel there that I can go right in, and see it's getting me right in there. It's doing exactly what I want. It's going to get it on both sides. So I fire this up and I start riding it back and forth. Now remember, this is not removing metal, so I can go pretty fast with it. And that way I know I'm getting underneath as well. And that's nice, man. That came out nice. So basically I'm going to do it to the back. Maybe I'll see if I can create a different angle here for you. Oh yeah, look at that. Man, you would think I actually did that on purpose. Okay, so same thing here. Like I said, the main thing is you don't want to take too much off. All you're doing is knocking these corners, these sharp corners down to be a little bit rounded so they have a better feel when the gun is cycling. So look at this, my hand's going to be in the dang way of this, but that's going to give you enough there. I don't want to compromise my work here by, you know, making sure you guys get a good angle, but I want you to see this. Let me see if I can spin it this way a little bit. Bring the camera up. At least the up direction is the right direction at all times. Okay, there we go. So that's where I'm going right there. I'm trying to stay as level as I can with this. I mean, actually, a lot of times I'll use either a dot level or, you know, something like these. I put it on the gun to make sure the thing is actually level to, you know, in a place where I know it's going to stay level. I want to make sure it's level if I'm doing that kind of work. And then, like I said, make sure your hand, like I have my hand rested here to create a support, and then I'm just going to be running over top of this right here, and you'll hear the difference take note of it right there. You can see that there's some, you know, it's edgy. I'm gonna knock that edge down right on here, and I'm gonna knock that edge down back there. Let me get it pointed so you can actually see it. This edge right here, and this edge right here. All right. So fire this up. And you have to be careful, man, because if you, at this point, if you drop down in and hit this piece of polymer, you're screwed, man. So I have smaller wheels that I do this with too sometimes. As you can see, I'm even, I wish you could, you know what, I'll wide this out and see if you can see this. There we go. I'm actually holding on to this with my body and moving back and forth, so I have really good control of it. Sitting on the corner a bit. Now I don't want, there we go, a little bit right there. That's taken down a little bit. Now there's a little thing right there that I'm not loving, so I'm going to switch this wheel over to a green wheel. Make sure I have this here. This little wheels de jour. And I don't have that actual bit, I mean that actual wheel. So once again, because this is pointed, I don't want that, so you know, once again I'm just going to create what I need. So I'll fire that up and then I'll just see, I just use this to take it off. Actually, that gave me too much of an angle, so then I'll grab another tool, which is a diamond sharpener, and I'll just hit it with this. And now it's flat. So I can get down in here deeper than I could with that other wheel just because of the circumference of it. But I gotta make dang sure that I'm really careful, because I can get down here, but if I go whoop over top of that, man, forget it. It's gonna be it's just nothing you want to do. So you gotta really stay steady. And a lot of times, there we go. And so I know this is spinning away from me. So since it's spinning away from me, it's easier to handle. If it's spinning toward me, woof, I could drop down. But since it's spinning away from me, I can run it this way and not really worry about too much about getting messing some stuff up. Okay. Step one there, and then, like I said, we're gonna switch it up, put this back on, and I'm gonna go over with this a little higher speed here. Usually it doesn't even matter if you hit the polymer lightly with this, because it doesn't really remove a ton, but you can see it's catching up right there on the edge. So let me grab a brush here. Make sure there's not a ton of jib on that. Get this with a little bit of a, and as you can see, I knocked the edge off. Now there is a little bit of a, right there you can see some stuff, especially if I would change this angle here. It's still beveled enough that it's, because it's not like the slide wraps around this, it's just riding on it. So as long as I knock the corners down, like sometimes before I'd be too anal and I'd be just trying to make it look right, like round that. But if I start doing that, man, I can run into a lot of problems. So a lot of the stuff with this kind of work is like knowing when to stop. You might think you want it to be, aesthetic, but that really doesn't have to happen. You can see it's knocked off right there. It is round. I mean, it is what I need it to be. If I wanted to be, you know, it wouldn't even be anal. I'd just be overdoing it, and I've done that before. You know, I have gone to both extremes with these triggers. I have taken them and pushed them as far as I can. I've pushed these guns as far as I can to a fault. You know, and that's what R&D is. You know what I mean? You take it and you just push. You know, you don't rest on your coattails. So, you know, that tends to be the way I work. And I'll push them on my guns, and I'll test them, and I'll have friends that test them that I trust. And I'm telling you, man, it's almost like sometimes that less is more. And you can see there's still a little bit of, you know, if I would really, no, see, it's smooth. It was just some filaments on there. But that is, for the most part, clean. For you guys, I mean, I'm going to do a little bit of touch-up work because it's just me being, like I said, I wouldn't say anal. I'm a little bit OCD, but not to a fault. That's what I'm trying to explain. Like in some of the other videos where, let me take this out. In some of the other videos, I kind of explained that, you know, especially in the, what's it called, the slide detailing, if you don't see something going on, you don't touch it. So if you don't see markings or demarcation or scratches or somewhere where something is lagging or dragging, you just don't get in there with the Dremel and start hitting it. And there, you know, once you've been doing this long enough, it's like, you know, they say, you know, guys only as good as his tools sometimes. I wouldn't completely agree with that, but there are definitely tools that are going to save you a ton of time. I'm lucky to have two uncles that are dentists, so they're always letting me check out like cool grinding stones and different abrasives that are impregnated with different type of abrasives and cutting tools to cut borders and all that kind of stuff. And they're small. I mean, some of the diamond burrs are just so tiny. So if I need to get into a little area or do some changes like that, I can do it. But once again, you know, it's always viced. I always have my body supported. That's some really, really important stuff. You just don't hold the gun in one hand. Like, you know, I see people holding the gun in one, like when they do the trigger pull thing. It's like, you know, you put the gun on a solid platform and then pull the trigger thing. It's just like this. You know, you don't want to be holding this and being like, oh yeah, there we go, I got that. Oof, you know, it's gonna bump off. It's gonna mess up this polymers. You can see those polymers have not even been touched. They're completely pristine. You know, now I'm gonna work on this some more and you know, get it to you know, a little bit closer than I want. I can just see a little couple things that I want to get out of there. But like even there, you can see something right there. Like that's a low spot. You don't go grinding the whole thing down to get that low spot out because it's low. It's not going to do anything. And that's a big thing to know. And you can see these are shining. You know, they're polished. They're not coming into focus too well because of the lighting. But there you can see. I mean, it's holding that light. It's a good mirror polish. And when I match this up with the slide that I tightened, even though it's a combat weapon, I don't want to take it. I don't want to mess with the margins too much. That's another thing. Competition, yeah, I'll tighten that thing. You know, I was gonna let's just say I'll tighten it. And lost my train of thought. So I'll tighten it, but not as much as a combat weapon because I don't want to lose a lot of the margins in there. You know, I want things to stay a little jiggly. What if you get in what if you get in some dirt or some mud or some sand or something like that? You want to give the Glock what it's designed to do. Give it some tolerance. Give it some margins. And these are the things that sometimes we don't think of because it's not our occupation, you know, but for me it's like it's my due diligence to think of all these different things and scenarios as I'm building these guns. I'm not going to do the same exact thing to a competition gun as I would to as to a carry gun that I know is going to be carried. I'm not going to put the same type of, you know, everyone talks about trigger weight. Trigger weight's just one aspect of it, you know. Pull out a bunch of pre-travel and even with my my carry groups, man, there's not a lot of pre-travel on them, but the wall's so defined. You know, I'm not using a 3.5 connector. I'm not making it so it's like, you know, right through that wall. The wall's defined, and it's a click. The last two triggers you saw were like that. They're just clicks, man. It's designed to be almost like a hammer mimic, and they're absolutely drop safe. You know, I'm not going to be putting triggers out there that aren't drop safe. I drop them from like 3, 6, and then 10 feet consecutively. to make sure, a carpeted concrete floor, and then I do it, this way, horizontally, and then basically you can do the pound test like that. And also you have to, put a grease pencil mark on the vertical extension, which is, this right here when you shut the gun, and then you'll be able to see if there's any markings from here to the safety plunger, because you've reduced the margin there for the firing pin safety. That has to be taken into account, absolutely. And then, at the end of the day, you're opening up the gun and you're looking at the, the relationship in between engagement. Are you completely engaged? What does that engagement look like? If it's going up north, I throw it in the freezer, let the gun get really cold, and then look at it then, because that changes polymer, and those are issues. And that's the kind of stuff I have to constantly be thinking about. Oh, this gun is, gonna go to, Michigan. You better make damn sure you do like the cold check on it and see that everything is working correctly in this back there where the engagement happens. So I thought I'd throw this video up. I thought it'd be pretty cool for you guys to see how this whole thing works. And like I said, I thought it was good to show you the before and after, like the one done and one not. Now we have it pretty much matching. And this gun's going to come out incredible. This is another gun that Nick from Nevada has sent me. I always mention people just because they like that, and they know I'm doing what I say I'm doing. Not skimping, not cutting corners. Anyway, so www.johnnyglocks.com is the website. 941-376-4383 is a telephone number. It's always best if you call. Those of you who called me, maybe you could put something up like, yeah, I talked to him and it was a great conversation. He wasn't condescending. He was very informational and helped me with some options, because that's basically what I'm here for. A lot of new shooters might get intimidated, but we were all there once, and I'm not that specialty retail guy that's like, thinks I know everything. I know a little bit, but not everything. So, or email me, getjohnnyglocks@gmail.com. But eventually I do like to talk to people just because it helps me help them with, like I said, there's stuff you might not think about that I think about. And with that little bit of dialogue going on, especially with reset and all this other stuff. A guy called me the other day and he said, his thumb was, this is really cool. So my thumb with the 34 is always catching the slide lock. And I said, man, I have that exact same problem because my thumb's so high on there. I can't use the extended, and even sometimes when I use the regular one, it happens. So, I basically, now of course I couldn't rest on that. I took this, I thinned out, a stock one. You can see it's been thinned. And then thinned as well as there's a little round to that right there, so your thumb can still hit it, but it's very tiny. And I went out and I ran my 34 last night. Man, it worked perfectly. I couldn't even feel the slide lock. I mean, every once in a while you feel coming past your thumb, depending on how high your